One of my pet beliefs is the fact that in India, IFAs do not look at segmentation very seriously. Ever since we started Cafe Mutual, both in terms of the content that we put up on the website and in terms of the training programs that we conduct, I've always been advocating that IFAs should look at different segments. Investors are not alike. No doubt everyone needs money, everyone needs to take care of money, but the way we approach the task itself has to be based on segmentation. For example, all of us need to take a bath. So a soap, any soap ought to do, but we know that that is now how it works. One company itself, Hindustan Unilever, might even have hundreds of brands which cater to the requirements. It's functionally it does the same thing, which is cleans us. But why do they target it at different, why do they package it differently? Why do they have different pricing for it? And how do they differentiate it? Why do they target something at men? Synthol is targeted at men. A lot of other brands are targeted at women, and so on and so forth. So coming back to, that is how I wanted to introduce the context of looking at women advisors. Are they different? Is the IFA community overlooking the needs of the women advisors? So what we've done today is, on my right, we have 2 women investors. So we will start off by trying to understand them a little better. And on my left are 3 IFAs, and there are 2 lady IFAs, and then we have 1 male IFA. So the first part, we will look at the women investors, and then we will come to certain business issues, which our IFA friends on the left will help us understand. Okay, so I'll start with Dr. Ashwini. Dr. Ashwini, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a gynecologist, and I have been working at PD Hinduja Hospital since last 14 years. And before that, I was at Nair Hospital as a lecturer in a teaching position. So total about 28 years I have been in this profession. Okay,
wonderful. So you're a very senior person at Hinduja Hospital.
I just wanted to add something that I also have been president of the Mumbai Obstetric and Gynec Society and the vice president of the Federation of Gynecologists. So I have that experience of working with NGOs. And for that also we need to have a lot of finances and manage the finances.
Okay, great. So how do you manage your finances? So clearly you've been in the profession, you would be saving a lot of money.
I don't know whether I'm a lot of money. It depends on the person, what is lot for that person.
Okay.
I remember when I joined Nair Hospital as a lecturer, I was earning just 3,000 rupees per month.
Okay.
I won't tell just now how much I earn today.
Okay.
Tejal, maybe she must have some idea, but I don't tell her also how much I earn. I don't tell anybody. I know how much I earn. Maybe that's right, that's not right. But yes, we have to have our independent, zone, and then that only you should know. Okay. I don't know how much my husband earns.
Okay.
And I never ask him that you have to tell me hisab of pai and pai. I don't tell him that.
Okay.
So that liberty is to him also.
So that's an interesting thing you brought about. So you're saying that you've kept your finances, you manage it independently of your husband. Is that?
I try to manage, but they will keep on interfering.
Okay. So
and that is Tejal's job, to keep them away. She knows the background, family background. Okay. So the financial advisor has to know the family background.
Okay,
but
great.
What are the barriers? The barriers start from myself. Firstly, I may be worried that how to go about it. Yeah. Then some other people are trying to influence and have power.
Okay.
And will make me do what they feel is right.
Who are these people?
Of course, there are, or even colleagues. When you have a discussion, when we are in the operation theatre and we are waiting for the next case to be induced, the anesthetists are there, the surgeons are there. Then we have a group discussion. Then we keep on talking. The TV is going on. Sensex is falling.
Yeah.
So few people will cry. So they will try crying that I have lost so much. Then they say no, but my advisor told me this. So that is always influencing your mind.
Okay.
So everybody is influencing you.
Okay. Everyone's trying to influence
you.
So how do you keep this influence away and decide what is good for you and what's not good for you?
No, what I have realized over the few years is that whatever first is essential things have to be looked after. So when I started my job, it was first just to save the income tax.
Okay.
So it was definitely, my father had opened my account in PPF many, many years back, and we used to put some money. So then every year, I kept on keeping in PPF. That was my first thing. Then the insurance, LIC insurances. Now there are so many private companies also, and professional indemnity, because doctors are sued nowadays. They are slapped, they are hit. So we are the very soft target, if you see. So we have to pay a huge amount for our professional indemnity.
Okay.
So these are the first things, and Mediclaim, because I know how much one has to spend when the medical bill comes. So even I have 10 lakhs cover for all my family. And I pay for my husband and my son, because if they are ill, I have to look after paying the bills. So I feel that I should, pay the Mediclaim. That is better way.
Okay.
And then the other things come. Of course, there are safe investments like postal. And then when Tejal came in the background, she told me about the inflation and all those things. And yes, some part in mutual funds, PMS, and some small part in shares.
Okay. But what are the goals? Why do you save? Why do you save money?
Firstly, I feel that everybody has to earn and save and be self-sufficient.
Okay.
No time we should be dependent on anybody.
Okay.
And we can see every human being, not only human being, even in nature, the bird has to get up every day and fetch for herself or himself, so we have to be on our own.
Okay.
We don't depend on anybody to feed yourself.
Okay.
And then you have to have a good life, and without any tension, and our basic needs have to be met. And I only feel sorry that in India, especially in Mumbai, the housing is so expensive, And because my immediate age is to have a bigger house, because my son is grown up, and I'm finding it very difficult to have those much finances. Being a professional, I earn by seeing the patients, very hard-earned money. Patients are giving me money, so even their money is very hard-earned, and we don't have money to throw. So in this situation, even if you don't, you want to have a bigger house, I feel very sorry that in city like Mumbai, a professional like me, it finds it very difficult to have a proper, good, big house.
Okay. Tell me, in your experience, are women investors being taken seriously by advisors and bankers? Are they being taken seriously, or do they think that a woman who's earning, her decisions are going to be taken by the husband or the father or the brother? Is that your experience?
I feel definitely there are generations. Yesterday only I was talking to my colleague who is now above 60.
Okay.
And she said that, Ashwini, my paycheck goes to my husband.
Okay.
And he will manage everything.
Okay.
That was a tendency.
Okay.
And she is going to look after the house. That was a division.
Okay.
That division is gone now.
Okay.
So if I felt from my generation onwards, we started coming out of that division. And we have more liberty to utilize our money the way we want. And I'm sure in her case, it will be totally free of any influence by the others.
Okay.
And the financial advisors should respect women and guide them. And I just wanted to say that I've read that word wooing. I don't think that word should be wooing, it should be motivating.
Okay.
So if you are wooing, we understand that this is not for our welfare.
Okay.
It has to be for the welfare of the women and not for the welfare of the advisors.
Well said. Very well.
Okay. Now, I'll turn to you. What do you do?
I work as a strategy consultant at an international development organization. So we provide management strategy advice to non-profits, organizations like the World Bank. Essentially, we work in the field of providing social impact advice and how organizations can be
So is this your first job?
It's my first
And
job.
how many years have you been at it?
I was hired straight out of college
Okay.
at the age of 20 and have been associated with the same firm for the last 3 years.
So what are your long-term plans, and what role does money play in it?
Honestly, I think about it in terms of short term. I'm looking to get a graduate degree at some point in the next, say, 2 to 3 years. And so for me, the biggest priority is actually saving up for my grad degree abroad. And to that, all my financial planning is associated with that goal in mind. So in terms of long term, not right now, but obviously there are the investments that have been made by my father on behalf of me that go into a longer term portfolio. But for me, right now, the way I look at my savings and how much I want to earn in the next 2 to 3 years, I look at it in terms of my grad school program.
So are you deciding that on your own? Are you taking these decisions on your own?
I think slowly I started off learning from Tejal exactly what the way in which to diversify my portfolio. And when I started earning, I had zero sense of what investments even meant. I thought it just meant Dad put something in a bank account somewhere and it just sat there and earned interest. But I think for me, it was very important to learn what the different types of products that were available so that I could then make my own decisions. And slowly, I started putting my own amounts from my own savings. And over time, Dad started to see then that I could manage on my own independently and became a little hands-off in terms of how I managed my own money.
Okay, great. So we have a more established, successful, and we have a budding talent. So now let's turn to the experts, the IFAs. So a lot of women today have independent income. Sujata, are IFAs looking at women seriously?
As a woman, yes, I look at women seriously. But I think all advisors in our country are aware that women are now a force to be reckoned with. So to some extent, I think they're aware they need to target women. And I don't mean target in a bad way. But perhaps there's a little bit of a struggle on how to approach it.
Okay. So the intentions are right,
Yeah.
but perhaps the approach may not be so nuanced, or the approach, they may be a little tentative about the approach.
I think so.
I think as we progress in our fraternity, there's a lot of niche areas being developed.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the way forward.
Yeah.
So where do you want to focus yourself on? So while yes, women being half the population of the country is a target as well. But within that also, I think we will find a lot of IFAs. Definitely, you cannot ignore the women investor, either taking a single decision or a joint decision.
Okay.
But going forward, yes, that is what the way would be as we see it today.
Tejal, do you have any statistics on what's the size of the opportunity here?
Yeah, in fact, just for sharing with everyone, in a 1.2 billion population, if women comprise 48 to 49%, it's very interesting, from some of the surveys which I've studied, 45.9% of all the enrolled undergraduate women in the country are women. So you see, that's the whole opportunity which grows up because they are going to be in the workforce in the next 5 to 7 years, and they would need people to help them with their advice, number one. Number two, interestingly, 40% of the PhD students also which have been enrolled in the current context, and therefore their age would be between 25 and 30. There also 40% are women. And 13% of the Indian workforce is in the salaried mode, also are women. So again, you see in terms of, and that's always going to grow year on year, and it's growing at a very fast pace. So even if you look at just very basic studies, you will find that that's the force which can be looked at as a huge opportunity.
Suresh.
Yeah.
One sec. I wonder if
Sure.
you don't mind. I just want to add to her statistics at this point. There are no studies in India which on women except what DSP has done so far, to my knowledge. But Fidelity, I think in 2012-13, did a study where they found that women save 8.3%, save, not invest, save, 8.3%. And men only save 7.9%.
And where was this study? This was an Indian
It was
study?
no, it's a US study done by Fidelity.
US. Okay.
But that differential adds up to billions of dollars. So if one were to say that the same thing happens here, because women are savers by nature worldwide, then you can see, if look at the statistics, then see the amount of money that would be available.
Yeah.
I think,
Okay.
it's a huge market.
Okay, okay. So they tend to save more, so they have more to offer to the. Okay.
The savings can convert to investments and the amounts will be fairly large.
Okay, got it. Suresh.
Yeah, I look at the whole thing slightly differently. It is not that any of the advisors here, any of the IFAs here are averse to dealing with women. I mean, we have nothing like men and women investors. In fact, the goals are going to be similar. There are going to be differences between the way men think, women think, what they want to achieve. So that is there. But there are points of difference probably because of various historical reasons, conditioning and things like that.
Absolutely.
So what is happening is we want to approach women, we want to get women on board as investors, and we are very keen on that. I have been in this field of advising since 2004, so we have dealt with thousands of people. So we have lot of women, single women, career women, all kinds of women as our clients. The problem that we encounter as far as women is concerned is that number one, they are conditioned to think, or I don't know, whatever it is, they are conditioned to think that finance is not their forte. So a lot of times they tend to think that, okay, let me just farm this out to my husband, my brother, my somebody, maybe my colleague, maybe somebody. So I'm just doing just cut paste copy job of what somebody else has done. So a lot of times a woman is not really keenly showing any interest as far as finance is concerned, and that we find to be a big problem.
Would you agree with that, Sujata and Tejal?
So I have a question for you, Suresh. This is a problem. Have you ever thought about why women are underconfident?
Yeah. See, it's probably a conditioning thing. So the answer is not one. Probably there are several answers. One of the things I can think of is they tend to think that the husband or the father or the brother or somebody else is taking care of that particular aspect, and I am a homemaker, or I take care of my children, I take care of the home, the other aspects, and that is why probably they are not coming forward as far as that is concerned. It is nobody's case to say that I mean, women will not understand finance. That is not what I am trying to say. But they are not coming forward in terms of I mean, those conversations, engagements which we have. Let me take a case. We do financial planning all the time for families. So there is a husband, there is a wife. Typically, that's the case. So we insist on, in every case, that the husband and wife should come for every conversation. But it happens in less than 20% of the cases, in spite of the fact that we insist on that.
So here's how I did it, and it was a question mark for many years whether I did the right thing, and it's only last year that it worked. I have a client, a male, and he asked whether he could come, and I said sure, but you have to bring your wife. And we organized, she's busy, he's busy, I'm busy. Finally we found a time, and as he was on his way, he lives in South Bombay, he called to ask me something, and I said something about your wife. Should I call back on your wife's cell phone? And he said, oh no, she's not coming. So I told him, in that case, please turn around and go back. I will not deal with you without your wife. He got really offended. And after that, I know him as a friend. We met socially, and this topic was never, ever brought about.
So has he continued to be your client or not?
So I didn't deal with him. And he actually went to somebody else, and I mean a bank really. And then I think 2.5 years later, he called up and said, if I bring my wife, will you see us? So I told him, I said, I'll repeat this story. I will make you go back if the wife is not there. And he's a big guy, you know, he's like a professional doctor, you know, and a lot of assets. It was the hardest thing that I did, but today they're both my clients, and I feel that the wife's a CA, but she doesn't earn, so whatever the husband says is what she's followed so far.
Okay, I know there is going to be no standard response to this, but in a situation where there is a woman earning independently, assuming that you know, she's married and has a husband, how do you think, what is the process of consulting, deciding about finances going on in that household? In most cases, what do you think is going on? You have both husband and wife working. What do you think is happening in most households?
So can I
answer
respond?
Yeah.
See, I'll talk from our experience. See, typically in a financial planning advisory situation, we find that one person takes the lead.
Okay.
In lot of cases, it has been men. In certain cases, it has been women.
Okay.
So we have about maybe 15-20% of the cases where the husband is working, husband is earning and everything, and the women is the person whom we are dealing with
Okay.
on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So it's not that women are not taking the lead. Women are taking the lead. We want more of them. We want both the people to come on the platform and discuss with us, engage with us. What we tell people is that even if you are not too very keen on knowing everything about finances, if your husband is not there tomorrow, you should know who is the person whom you have to deal with. And at least for that reason, you have to come to us. So that is what we tell them. And that has been taken very well by a lot of people, and that is when they start engaging with us.
Okay.
Just to add, what Suresh is also saying is that, we have so much tools available from the fraternity, and what I tend to do is when I start a relationship is, send the spouse the tools which we have, so many videos, and at least it gives them the basics of investing. And then when they come to us, or when they come into my office or I'm visiting them, then it just gives me, there's a conversation piece in which I take them through, if they have not already seen maybe a movie for 5 minutes or so, some sort of a promo which is there, or some sort of a educational movie. So the focus is not on that you come and invest and finance. It's more in telling them the benefits of, if you were to take that financial decision, how would it impact you? And just the plethora of tools available to us is unbelievable. So, or I send a link to them. I think 10 out of the hit rate would be, if you 10 to 10 spouses, if you are dealing with the male, at least 2 to 3 would turn around. So I think that could be encouraged.
Sujata.
Just to add to Suresh's comment, statistics actually support you. 9 out of 10 women are going to be the sole financial decision maker at some stage in their lives going forward. Women live longer. Less women are getting married. More divorces, more separations. The statistics are fairly high. So I think actually, this is definitely a very important step that we all need to take.
Okay.
When we deal with couples, involves a woman and educate the
So
woman.
we'll ask Dr. Ashwini. So your husband is not at all involved in your financial decision making,
He very much wants to be involved.
but you keep him away.
Yeah, and Tejal knows it better. And she has to learn the skill how to keep him away.
Okay.
When he is saying something which is not palatable to me.
Okay.
So that freedom has to be there. Means I listen to everybody because I understand you must take advice. So there is always, that one coin has always two sides. And one has to be very careful, I feel. And in Marathi, we have a saying, ki aikawa janacha ani karawa manacha. So you should listen to everybody and should listen to your own voice and what you feel is right for you, because you only know in what situation you are.
And in your situation, what do you see going on between your parents? Who decides where to invest?
I think it's credit to my dad that he actually brought me into the fold of investing and thinking about my independent investments. So I think that I agree with your point on segmentation, that at different points of time, women also have different requirements. So it's not about married versus not married, it's more about those entering the career, those earnings potentials that they have, and finally at the time of retirement, what decisions they're making. So it's actually thinking about it more, how about bringing them into the financial decision-making process early on. And you have the statistics that support the women, that more women are joining the bracket of earnings and high earnings potential.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to ask, men versus women, in every which way you find magazines and, tabloids talking about how women are different from men. Does that apply to the world of finance also? Does that apply to savings, investments, financial planning, goal setting? Does it go about? Suresh?
Yeah, see, very, very broadly speaking, all of us have goals. The goals can be slightly different in the case of women versus men. So that is going to be there. But there are going to be nuances when dealing with women as opposed to men. Women, generally we find, again I am saying generally, this does not apply to the 100% population of women. In general, we find women to be slightly more conservative.
Okay.
There are women who have very high risk appetite as well.
Okay.
So typically women gravitate towards the debt income instruments.
Okay.
The typical, they are very, very happy about real estate.
Okay.
Some women also invest in gold. So typical assets are there. But it is not that they are not willing to be persuaded. So as far as our IFA community here is concerned, it is not that they are not willing to be persuaded about the new instruments which may be better for them. So we have people who come with, let us say, a FD portfolio or a PPF and those kind of things. But when we actually talk to them, so this is where our role comes in. That is when we start talking to them about the new investments which will be probably more useful to them, they are willing to listen. The only thing is, this is very important. We should not talk down to them. This probably is a tendency which we people may have, and we should not talk down to them. We should come to the same level and try to explain to them as to why what we are suggesting will be useful to them. This I found to be very, very useful approach while getting that trust. In my experience, women trust over a period of time. It is comparatively easier to get the trust of men. Women typically tend to trust after a long period of time, but once you have earned that trust, they stay with you. So a women investor, in my experience, is a sticky investor, and over a long period of time, they will follow your advice more diligently than many men. So this is my experience.
Okay.
What
it-
difference between
Yeah.
men and women? What I find is sometimes we tend to be less sensitive to what a woman's needs could be.
Yeah.
And we have what we call self-talk in our mind. While we are approaching an investor, and specifically a woman, she has certain apprehensions when she's dealing with finance, and that is always the first step of suspicion and what will happen. So at that time, even as a woman to woman or a woman to male, in fact, also, what we find is that sometimes we get to be so hardened in our mind that we have not actually come down to the level of what the woman investor is looking for. And over a period of time, I have found that certain questions which I have developed as part of my process helps me to really understand the sensitivity of what the woman is looking for. So sometimes probably from a male perspective, we think very differently, where you just assume that this is all the goals and we have set of 10 goals and it will fit in somewhere, and that's the framework we have built. But somewhere I think we need to be a little more sensitive to what a woman's needs could be. It could be as simple thing as a goal like buying the sari which the neighbor has, or it could be, for the Diwali, it could be something like buying something for the house. And as we go on with the process, you develop and you understand the needs. But it does take time, as what Suresh has said. But once she is with you on board, she's there for a lifetime.
Sujata, the other day you were telling me about women being able to articulate that. I found that very interesting. Why don't you share it with us?
Yeah, so this part is, I think, it adds to what Tejal just talked about. Women tend to talk a lot. I think everybody over here will agree. So I think Prem's going to have a problem shutting me up as well. But they tend to talk a lot, and they tend to talk in a way that it's not very direct. So I had one case of a lady who, every meeting she would talk about her mother and her grandmother and them having cancer. And twice I heard the story, and twice I was wondering, why is she telling me this story again and again? And tube light that I was, I didn't realize that actually it was her fear and her belief that she was going to get cancer. And once I figured it out, it was so easy to, calm her apprehensions and tell her, or take steps. So I don't think men have the patience really to listen, but honestly, if you do, and it's an active listening where you kind of involve the woman in the conversation, I think you'll find that 3 or 4 such things will help win her over or win her trust.
Okay.
One small point.
Yeah,
can I?
please.
See, one of the things again we have found in our experience is that if we involve the women and when we have made a plan and we want the plan to be executed properly to the T, if the women has bought in the plan, if we have taken the trouble of actually educating what we have done, it is implemented 100%. If you have only talked to the male investor, the male of the house, the chance of that getting invested is probably 60-70%, maybe 80%. But if you have talked to the lady, even in terms of expenses, even in terms of even cutting down certain goals, and if you have her buy-in, it is 100%. So that is something we as IFAs have to remember.
So
It's more productive to meet women because they close deals faster, things happen.
It has to buy in of the both people. So anyway, we are talking to the men in a lot of cases, but women buying is important if you want 100%.
It's also what you said, no, don't talk down to the woman.
Absolutely.
So sometimes we come with an attitude that we know it all, and a man to woman talk also could, be differentiating, because sometimes it's, you're used to saying certain things at home, and it's the same tone which we carry forward, while in a meeting. So that's very important that we have that specialized.
Just quickly share with us, you've done some study on the different sub-segments within the women community. Why don't you take us through that? It's not working.
Okay. So what I have done is, when we say women as a segment, you could even differentiate in what segment you would like to fit in, because everyone has an age profile or certain characteristics of your own investors. So what I have done as a small study is that I differentiated. If you look in, I operate in Mumbai. You look at single women because that's an increasing number. So this is a sub-segment which you could look at. You have single women. Single working women could be fitted in two categories. One is junior and senior, because the requirements would differ. Number two would be married, young and older, because between the ages of 25 to 40 is a young category, and the needs would be different for them, whereas 40 to 60 would be a second subtype.
Yeah, it's
okay, I have it here, some part of it. So you see over here, you have single women, right? Then you have freelancers. Today, increasingly, women are operating from home, and that's a huge income coming in. There are no statistics available today, but definitely that's a segment which you can't miss because they want to invest. And then you have working people who are senior, middle, and part-time. People after 10 years, 15 years, women are taking a break out of very hard, if you look at top corporate women, and I work with a lot of them, they're taking breaks and they say, okay, I want 2 years to spend with the children, let them grow, and then I'll come back to the workforce. So obviously corporates are also offering different types of flexi hours. So again, this could be the senior, middle, and part-time, where paychecks could range from 1 to 4 lakhs per month. So again, that's a huge segment to be looked at. Then you have the married. Married could be again a working spouse or a non-working spouse, depending on where he or she would fit in. Single, of course, right, as I said, even this could be further sub-segmented into single young and single senior. Divorced or separated, again, that's a huge area. Divorce does not mean, divorced again could be different and separated again could be different, because a person who's just separated has different financial requirements. A person who's divorced may be getting an alimony money from the husband. So again, things have to be worked out on a case-to-case basis. And then you have widowed. Widowed, somebody who's a senior executive, 50, 55, also somebody who's inherited wealth. A huge insurance paycheck has come in to a person who's widowed, and I have come across young widows between 45 and 55 who have got like 10 crores coming in their account and they don't know what to do. They don't even know what's a mutual fund. So again, that's a huge segment to look at. I have some case studies, the next slide, if we have time for that. No? Fine. So this is what you could segment it and just see if it could fit in within your investor framework.
okay, great. Now we're running out of time. So one piece of advice, one tip to this audience on how to acquire women clients. What do they need to do to be able to acquire women clients? Start with Siddharth.
I'm not sure how to acquire clients, but if I deal with a woman client, there are two things that I follow. I actively listen to what they want,
Okay.
and I don't use any financial jargon at all.
That's great. So we have two tips from you. Hone up your listening skills if you want to deal with women clients. And second, avoid technical jargon. So keep it simple and straight. Great.
So one, taking a cue from Ashwini, I must learn how to deal with the husbands if I'm dealing with the men, with the women. So one thing is important, that there is a buy-in from the, it's a joint working between, even if they both are independently earning, you must see that if, get the man in confidence, if he is going to finally take the decision. So that could be one thing to look out for. Who's going to be the final financial decision maker? Because that plays a big role. It could be the father or the husband or the brother. And that's one. Two could be that you even look out for, be part of forums which are actively, there in society, where you could let your own spouse be part of, or you be part of, depending on which segment you want to work with. And that could be, to associate with more number of women as part of, because there are a lot of women's organizations, associations, kiddie parties, and so many things, which are happening all over. So if you're a part of that, okay, in some form, it could definitely open up more ways to acquire. I mean, that's what it has helped me.
Suresh?
I have one tip for the IFA community. We are currently dealing with probably the man of the house, probably I'm saying. But if you want to deal with them for the next 50 years, when the man is not there, you better be in the good books of the woman. I mean, the woman has to be a part of your advisory group. Only then, when the husband is no more, or suppose she is separated or whatever, then you still continue to get that business. Otherwise, that business is lost. So for a multi-generational successful practice, you have to be in touch with the women.
Suresh, this applies to life. You always have to be in the good books of women.
Okay.
Absolutely, I entirely agree.
Not just financial planning.
So what would you like your advisor to do? Let's say, what would you ideally like them to do with you as a...
The way you want your doctor to be.
Yeah.
When patients say that, what do you want in a doctor? So doctor has to be firstly concerned about your well-being. And what is your problem? That has to be diagnosed. And you have to give a proper solution. And nowadays with technology, there are so many different solutions. So you have to give that whole basket in front of the patient. And you can just help them choose which one that patient wants. So the same way, I think the advisor should be. And I feel that practice should be ethical. And I should know that they are not cheating me. And because how we, doctors, we are in charge of their life. So you are in charge of your money. So money is next to your life. So you have to be ethical, and we should know that you are not cheating us.
And what about you?
I have actually a very simple tip. Your clients are probably male head of households. Ask about their daughters. Their daughters are going to be the next earners of the family, and the way society is progressing today, more of them are going to be earning than what they did maybe 10 years ago. Ask about their daughters care about their own wealth, their daughters care about making money and saving and investing. That's a simple tip.
Okay, great. So thank you so much.